Welcome to the Black on Shelf podcast, a podcast championing Black and Brown entrepreneurs on the digital and physical shelves. I'm your host, Tanaj Ferguson. This is Black on Shelf. All right, welcome back to Black on Shelf. We are with Akua Kyerematen Nettey from Berry Bissap. I'm so excited to talk to another Black woman about her business. This one is in Whole Foods and other retailers. We're going to learn more about all the things, but welcome, Akua.
Thank you so much for having me. So excited.
Of course. This is the spot. This is the home for women of color, for Black and Brown folks to talk about their businesses. So super excited to have you on. Let's jump right in. We want to know all about you. We want to learn more about Berry Bissap, which is a traditional West African drink, very popular in the West Indies as well as in West Africa. So Akua is going to give us some of that background and just first tell us more about you. Who are you? Where are you from? Where did the drink come from? Tell us more.
Yes. So as you said before, my name is Akua Kyerematen Nettey, and I am the founder of Berry Bissap. And so I was born and raised in Oklahoma by Ghanaian immigrants. Both of my parents immigrated from Ghana, and along with my sister and my brother. And we grew up in a very modest working class home in Oklahoma City, very quiet, but there's a very, very close-knit, rich Ghanaian community. There is other African communities in Oklahoma that people don't know about.
That might be a surprise to some people because we're thinking Oklahoma, and then we're immediately like, who is there? Tell us what your childhood was like. Talk to us about your childhood in Oklahoma as a Ghanaian American.
Yeah, it was very quiet, very simple. Although we were one of the few Black people in where we were living. So we were living in the southwest part of Oklahoma City, which borders Moore, Oklahoma. Okay. So we attended the schools there, and very quiet, but there was also Ghanaian families that were living there as well. I have a few close friends.
So could you get your hair done? Could you eat
food?
Yes. Like things like that? There was enough people where you can get those types of things within your community. Okay.
Absolutely. There were even African like supermarkets, like that sell West African and as well as like Caribbean foods and other international foods. So we would get our traditional ingredients. And my mom, huge cook, like big time home cook. Yeah. And pretty much learned all when it comes to cooking, being in the kitchen. I learned most of it from my mom, watching her making traditional dishes like, contumely stew with, boiled yam, sliced avocado, boiled plantains, or a very popular soup, which is called abenquine, which is palm nut soup that you eat with fufu. And it's assorted maybe like lamb or goat meat or like smoked fishes in there, very umami flavored food, very rich. Jollof, which is very popular in all.
I was waiting for you to say that one. So in your family, who makes the best jollof rice?
Who makes the best? Well, I would always say my mom, but my mom says, well, you kind of do. I really like your jollof.
Okay.
She likes mine.
She likes yours.
Yeah, but a lot of like both my siblings, they, when they come over, they're like, are you going to make some jollof so we can eat it? And like my husband's friends, they love it. So jollof is always in the house. I always have jollof in the house. But I learned everything from my mom. And, I think the specialty about cooking and our food is just how rich, the spices are and how they were able to, what I find amazing, not just by my mom, but just like, African women in general, the way they're able to be consistent with their dishes, how they taste delicious and the same over and over again, and improvising when it comes to cooking. They don't measure it. You don't measure. Yeah. I watch my mom.
Intuitive orchestration of amazingness all the time.
Actually, exactly. And so, I would be in the kitchen with her, watching her, and my love for cooking, my love for food, I've always loved food, but my main love for food really came in my early teens.
Okay.
And it was more not only just learning about West African food, but also learning about how it connects in the Americas. That was what really, and I there was and I talked about in this article that that I was featured in with the kitchen, and I talked about there was a program on the Travel Channel, and it was showing these beautiful Honduran women, Black women, beautiful, that brown skin Black women from Honduras with their hair wrapped, and how they would cook and they would dance. And I said to myself, I said, these women, they look just like us. They look just like most West African women in West African countries. And I speak for West Africa because, that's the region I know most. It's a massive continent with so many cultures and backgrounds.
Yeah.
So when I say West African, that's because that's what I identify most. And it just got my curious juices flowing about the connection, because when you see Latin American food, West Indian food, you see a direct connection.
Yes.
And it was on many things, right? Like with rice, like the different types of rice, plantains, I know some parts of the Caribbean, they make like stews, like with oxtail, and
yes,
it's and just the ingredients
soups as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But one thing that really stood out to me was Bissap. And the reason why that stood out to me so much is because my mom would make it for us all the time. And I noticed that it's a beverage that is enjoyed in the West Indies.
Yeah, but
Caribbean
we don't call it Bissap. They call it sorrel.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the way it's made, and also like saril in Panama, agua Jamaica in Mexico.
Yes.
It's made, it's the way it's made is generally similar. But of course there are variations. And I would Google about, so what's the difference? There's got to be they're so similar, and we call it different names, but there's got to be a connection. And I was doing my research. This was in 2014, and I said to myself, wouldn't this be wonderful to be in stores? Number one, this beverage is delicious. It's tart. It can be lightly sweetened or heavily sweetened. It's refreshing. All ages can enjoy, and it's healthy. I knew this would be a great product on the shelf, but I also first thought about, well, there's no African representation on shelves, West African, let alone African in general. And I was saying this back in 2014. I knew it was a crazy idea because it was something I never dabbed into, but I said to myself, let me do some more research, learn about the history. And I learned about how, it basically comes from the Senegambia Empire, which is now Senegal and Gambia, and how the stories about the slave trade and how many things were transported to the slave trade. And I remember reading an article. I didn't know about this then, but like I knew now, but, reading about how a lot of the women, when they were captured, they would hide things in their hair. They would braid millet like seeds, black eyed pea seeds. And I remember one of the founders of Soulfire Farm talked about the roots, like the history, how they would hide their ingredients to take a piece of home with them as they were on the journey to this unknown land, right? So once I knew about that, I then come to realize, okay, well, the hibiscus flower can easily be cultivated in the Americas, like Central, South, or Central America, South America, in the Caribbean, but not in North America, right? And so Bissap has a connection to the South in the United States, where in Juneteenth, they drink a beverage called red drink. And red drink, although it's not made from hibiscus, it's a beverage that kind of connects them to their African roots, which majority of African Americans pretty much come from West Africa. I would say majority, not all, but and as I was sitting here, okay, well, red drink basically commemorates this beverage called Bissap, which comes from West Africa.
Yeah.
The same with sorrel, and the same with agua jamaica. And when you learn about the history of agua jamaica in the Costa Chica area in Mexico, that is where a lot of the hibiscus is grown and harvested. And I learned about how where it has heavy African ancestry and roots.
Okay.
And so
that area within Mexico.
Yes. Okay. And in Panama, some parts of Panama where it's grown and harvested, and of course, all over the Caribbean, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I said to myself, this is bigger. This is not just a drink that we drink in Ghana. It's bigger than that. This connects, this drink celebrates us
lineage,
as Black people.
Legacy. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I said, this has to be celebrated all over the world to Black and brown people, because where it directly comes from in the origin, which is West Africa.
Wow.
And so it was important that I call it, that it had to have the word Bissap in it, right?
That was because the original name.
Exactly. In Ghana, we call it Sobolo. Right.
Sobolo.
So that's how I knew it. That's how I was calling it.
Does that mean something in Ghana, or that's just a common name? I
think it's just a common name for the drink. Yeah, in Nigeria, they call it Zobo, but a lot of the Francophone nations, including Senegal, Gambia, Mali, and Guinea, and others, call it Bissap. And so as I was doing the research, I said, I don't want it to just be, it can't just be a Ghanaian product, because although we love it and we drink it and we claim it as our own, that's not where it's from. It's from, it's important to acknowledge the origin. The origin. It is very important to me. So that is why I call it Berry Bissap, because berry, we only have one flavor of Berry Bissap, which is the mixed berry. But the reason why I call it berry with Bissap is because hibiscus is very tart and rich in antioxidants, like the berries, like the fruit. Yes. So I thought it would be a fun way to call it. And I sat on the idea until, made the journey, I got married, left Oklahoma, came up here to New York, and then it was late 2018, December 2018. I said, it's time to make a move. It's time to launch and see where this goes. It's a big risk, but my husband has been super supportive. My family, they've all been supportive and behind me. So I said, let's go. So January 2019. Wow. I went into local stores here in the Hudson Valley of New York and got into 9 stores and did farmers markets and marketing and really trying to hone it. But I didn't get the branding together. It was just the product. Let's get the product into business.
I love a lot of your story. I love the whole story. There's a couple things I want us to highlight, because I know the Boss Fam is thinking, well, one, I have to give you your flowers because you took this research next level. You basically became a historian. Somebody come and give Akua her master's in this, because we now know that all about this, all in one place. You need to be getting your honorary masters on behalf of Black on Shelf, please. No, you really did your research. And I think that is so core. For one, doing your research and really saying, I want to honor this product. I really want to make sure I understand it. I could be an advocate of what's going on. I could be a spokesperson on behalf of this. And that you were able to really represent the continent because of all that research. And there's so much more value in your brand because you now know where it came from, you know who it connects to. Yes. I love that. I was really inspired by how much research you did on the brand before ever starting. So yes, it took you a minute, but when we look at all the research and just where your curiosity was sort of taking you on that research journey, we understand why. But then culminating with, okay, that really put a fire under you to say, I need to get this on shelf. Yes. Right? So you had all this life happen, but as all this life was happening, you still stayed connected to this idea of, I want to put Bissap on shelf. I want to tell this story. I want this to be a platform. But while that was happening, you were working, you were studying, you tell us about this life. You went to school. I know you had a mass communications bachelor's degree. Talk to us about where some of your job experiences were coming from. that would then prepare you to be able to have something like this?
Absolutely. Well, first, I have to really give credit to my parents. They were the ones that instilled entrepreneurship in me from the beginning.
Yeah.
They were the risk takers. And for them to become entrepreneurs when when they didn't have much and made something of themselves. And, you know, I really admire that. And so, I would say what I learned was pretty much management in the restaurants. I mean, a bit in college with mass communications in terms of marketing, advertising, but I would say most of the skills I have
Yeah.
were now, which is, you know, the early stages.
Yes.
We're, you know, learning about food handling. You know, you learn about that in restaurants. You know, creating something, you know, mass producing something that my mom pretty much taught me how to make, and learning how to mass produce it, you know, learning about supply chain and logistic operations, where you learn that with restaurants. And so, I mean, I knew that that this journey was going to be difficult, just how it is, you know, in any business. And I mean, I remember those days, you know, working for my parents in those restaurants, the busy days, you know, we're, you know, trying to manage people and things like that. But I knew
it
with
wasn't
Beverage,
an
it would be
African
different.
restaurant, right? It wasn't an African
No,
restaurant. Okay.
no, it was a franchise. It was an American food franchise that became one of the top franchises. I think it still is. And just learned so much about management, about work ethic. Work ethic was huge. Being on your feet for a long period of time. It's and basically learning the ups and downs of business, you know, having your own business, because it's a daily how do I say it, a daily challenge.
Yeah.
You know, problem solving. You know, things go wrong a lot, so it's learning about problem solving and working with people, and you know, managing cash flow. You know, it's so many things.
So you had a strong backdrop in business, which was good, although I know franchise, some of it is taught, and then you kind of transition into entrepreneurship. You have the idea, what do you do next? Because now you're in a different league. And do you get your family involved? Are they like, okay, we know how to do this too, we'll try to help? What happens in that process, and who are you able to get on board to help you, if anybody?
So my family is not here. I mean, I have a sister who lives in the city, but my brother and both of my parents are still in Oklahoma.
That's right.
So,
you moved, right?
Yeah. So now, you know, I hire people to help me, you know, when it comes to like production and everything. But I would say in the beginning, even before moving here, you know, it was definitely an avenue that I knew nothing about. And my parents were like, well, you know, we're here to support you. And my dad was like, well, the first thing you need to do is get people to try it. So just, you know, find a farmer's market or that you can sample to, or a small store where you can sell and kind of test it. So I joined this, I don't even remember the name of the farmer's market, but it was in 2016, and people loved it. People loved it. And it was in plastic bottles and very generic label, no branding. I had no brand. I had the name, but no brand or anything, just what kind it is. And it was very simple. And I remember, I think I took, how many units? I think I had like 50 or 60 units, and I sold out of all of them
at the farmer's market. This is a good point we should stop on. So when someone is new to starting a business, I love that your first, and this was the advice of your dad, was get it in people's mouths, right? Get someone to try it. What's the lowest risk thing? Go to a farmer's market. How valuable was that experience? Did you go back? Did you do the one and you sort of stayed with it and kept there? Or did you have a specific goal for the one time that you went? Talk to us about what you gained from that experience.
Absolutely. I would say the one thing I gained, and one thing I wanted to achieve, was for feedback. That was the main thing for me. Feedback from consumers that, you know, of course, there are going to be some that don't like it, obviously, but, you know, most that do, and what I could do to make it better. to make it more better for you, without sacrificing the true, like, the traditional ingredients. Because one thing I would not sacrifice on is the ingredients.
Yeah.
I mean, I could, if I have to decrease the sugar or like the sugar content, I was all for it, because I wanted it to be low sugar.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that it had to, it's not a traditional beverage. It's paying homage to the traditional with a twist of infusing, organic fruit. So it was important that even though we had our own twist with the fruit, that the taste is original.
Mm-hmm.
We're not trying to be like anybody else. We're not trying to taste like a kombucha or another drink. We are creating a category here. I'm introducing something new. So, the main takeaway was, okay, it's too sweet and it was too thick. So to kind of make it not too concentrated type. So I made it more light and refreshing, and drastically lower the sugar content.
Yeah. So it sounds like the farmer's market, exactly what you said, giving you feedback, and you were able to take that to iterate on the product itself and say, all right,
Absolutely.
Gotta go, find a space between the original recipe and where on that spectrum is modern, lives into the health appeal that you were looking to deliver on, and still is enough of that original experience so that you can call it Bissap and you're paying homage like you want to.
Absolutely. It is very important to stay true to the traditional ingredients.
Yeah. That sounds so core to Berry Bissap. Given all the research you had done, it makes sense that you would want to make sure this is a product that's true to its name.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you do farmers markets, you get some sampling experiences. How long are you at the farmers market? Like, how many months or years did you do that type of experience where you're selling it, talking to people, trying to get some awareness around it? What does that look like?
So it was summer of 2016. And it was on the weekends. I was still working at the restaurants. And so it was on the weekends, in like late mornings to early afternoon. So probably 4 or 5 hours. Yeah. Typical times of a farmer's market, and talking to people, and striking conversations with them, and they will say, well, what is that? I always made sure that I say Bissap, because I never wanted to veer away from that word. Part of me was like, well, should I just say hibiscus drink?
Right.
Or hibiscus, or fruity hibiscus. I said, no, we got to keep it original. We have to keep it. It's important. Keep it indigenous, keep it original. So I would say, hello, would you like to try some Bissap? And then people turn around and be like, what's that? And then I ain't never heard of that. And then I would explain to them, oh, where does that come from? And then talk, and it's been wonderful, really. That was the greatest experience, especially because I had lower expectations given where I was in Oklahoma City. But
I was going to ask about that, the context of you're at a farmer's market in Oklahoma City. So from a demographic standpoint, it's not necessarily the core audience of West Indian people or African people. And that was okay. You wanted to take something that was paying homage to this audience, but that could have a global appeal to others, because we thought that there's this opportunity for everyone to enjoy hibiscus. You just wanted this to be a vehicle to tell the story as well.
Absolutely. Hands down.
Okay.
Hands down. And it turned out well.
So you almost had a more difficult situation in that, like, these were people that had no idea. And if you can get them to love it, everyone could love it.
Exactly. And so I knew that, I knew I was moving to New York at that time. We were engaged, my husband and I, we were engaged at that time. And so I said, okay, this can work. This can work. I really do see it working. And I share with my parents, they say, yeah, it can definitely work. Of course. Just make sure you have, just a simple ducks in a row. Make sure you have your barcodes, because I intended, although I did do farmers markets here, my goal was retail. Yeah.
Yes. You always had your eye on retail.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a good phase. What did you do next? You talked about getting your ducks in a row. So for the Boss Fam, what does it look like to get your ducks in a row? What are some of these checklist things that you need to go from farmer's market to shelf? Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Ooh. So the first thing is making sure you have a scheduled process, because whether you're going to make it in a commercial kitchen or in a co-packing facility, it's important that you have a process where you know the temperatures, you know the pH levels, whether it's going to be refrigerated or shelf stable, you know, having the inventory of the bottles, caps, lids, labels. I said lids. And incorporating the business name, but also making sure the name is that can be trademarked, you know, because IP is very important. But that didn't happen for me until later, just due to finances, because I was very limited. So, and UPC codes, because my goal was retail. Even though I did anticipate that I would participate in farmers markets here in New York, which I did. Retail was my first priority. So it really depends. If you plan to like hit the ground running with retail, UPCs are very important. And then a liability insurance, getting a manufacturing license, you know, whether you're doing it yourself or in a facility. So just making sure I had those common things and knowing what the recipe is and just protecting the recipe. And so that's basically were the small things that the small
those
list
are
of
the
things
small but impactful things. So
yeah.
I love that you gave us an overview, and now I want for the Boss Fam to really go over some of the elements that you mentioned. So in terms of the schedule process, so I know the schedule process is really around making sure the manufacturing element is covered, so that's the recipe development is repeatable, right? This is something you could execute again and again and again. So this is a formal document you create so that your product is able to be manufactured again and again at the same quality. Talk to us about how you were able to do that. Did you do it yourself? Did you hire someone as a consultant for it?
So I did hire someone to help me with the schedule processing, because I had 2 SKUs at that time in Oklahoma, but I knew that I had to get another one in the state of New York. So the Cornell and Food Venture Center, they were very helpful with kind of like pretty much piecing that all together for me, knowing what the pH levels are and the temperatures are. So the Cornell Food Venture Center has been a great resource for me in terms of that FDA regulations, you know, and such. So that's the process that I did go through. This was even before launching.
Good.
So I took it was a class. It was an online class with quizzes that I had to take about, you know, hot fill, the process, through whether it's canning or bottling, knowing, you know, those things are very important. I know Cornell Food Venture Center they do have classes as well, and some universities do have classes that are accredited for entrepreneurs to take. And so I did
yours through Cornell.
I did, yes.
Yeah, so and we will definitely attach them as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a great resource for all entrepreneurs in food and bev.
This was how you were starting to learn about this world you didn't know about.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, after that, I was getting ready. I was like, I'm going to launch this. The plan was to launch this in 2018. Okay. You know, early 2018, and then I got pregnant. And so I still went through the process, still did the quizzing, you know, the classes and such. And then I said, okay, well, right after I have this baby, I'm going to launch. And then I had, that didn't go to plan at all. You know, my son was born and I had to be at home with him and tend to him. He was our first priority. So, you know, I took maternity leave from the banking job that I took. This was right when I moved to the Hudson Valley. Yeah. And then I said to myself, I love my son, but I can't stay home like this every day. I can't do it. And then I just had that itch, you know, Berry Bissap, I just had that itch. I said, I need to do this right away. I can't wait any longer. I can't wait for the perfect time. There is no perfect time. And, you know, my husband and I, we were like, yeah, this is going to be a big step. This means you will have to step away from your job, but this is a risk that we are taking, and this is what we believe in, and we believe this is going to pay off. So, my husband's like, go for it.
Wow.
And
So you had that full support.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes. I don't know where I would be without the support of my family, for sure. They've been so wonderful to me. And still are. I mean, they're amazing. Yeah. So I found a facility here, a commercial kitchen here in Poughkeepsie in the Hudson Valley. And so I signed with them, started making the product, just small quantities because it was just me, and went door to door to supermarkets. And so there's a particular store here in the Hudson Valley, which is very popular, called Adams Verica Farms. I brought it in to them. They tasted, they said, it is really good. And we don't have anything like this. I remember one of the buyers said, I've never tried anything like this. This is fantastic.
That's amazing.
Bring a case. Let's see how it goes. We want you to participate in the food show. So I participated in the annual food show. And I brought just 2 cases, and it was all gone. So they were like, can you bring more?
Right.
So I brought more. Next month, I brought 4 cases. It was sold out within a month. Can you bring 6 cases?
Right.
And it was just growing from there.
So very progressive growth there with that retailer.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, there's like a good couple. You gave us a lot just then. So I'm gonna start unpacking here because you're giving us some good information here. We talked about some of those key things you did. And I think I want the Boss Fam to hear us really clearly. These are core stuff you have to do at the beginning. It might look different if you're doing another product, but I think there's a lot of it that applies just from my knowledge as well. The schedule process. Akua talked to us about that. Inventory and product components was another one. It's saying, like, what do I want to put out there? At the time, were you still in plastic and you're now in glass? But at that time you were in plastic. That's what you could source. Talk to us about some of your experience around getting inventory and knowing that it's able to be iterative. It might not be where you start. Likely it's not where you're going to end.
Right.
Talk to us about your experience with product sourcing, inventory, getting that initial product, and then over time adapting the lid, the bottle itself, the labels, and that constant iteration. Talk to us about your experience with that.
For sure. So when I started, I couldn't afford glass, of course. So I couldn't make it a shelf stable product like I wanted it to. Yeah. So we had to, which required a different process, which a much shorter shelf life. I was bummed about plastic, but I knew that was, the only way I could get this product out there for people to try until we were ready to go shelf stable and afford glass. So we did start off with plastic, but I made sure to I was just looking for affordable, plastic bottles that are not harmful.
Yes.
And I came across, there's this company that makes recyclable and compostable plastic and paper materials. So we were able to get recyclable plastic bottles that were not harmful, that didn't have like harmful,
like BPA
chemicals.
Free, things like that.
Yes, BPA free. Yes, exactly. So that's exactly what it was. And so we were using that, using regular paper labels around, and I would purchase them small at a time because, of course, when you have limited funds, you have to buy limited quantities.
Yeah, which
does hurt your margins. It does hurt in the beginning, but I think it's an investment because as you grow and as you scale, you can purchase more, and then because the more you purchase when it comes to inventory, the less it is per unit.
Yes.
So that's basically how it was for a while. We were in BPA free recyclable plastic pretty much until early 2021.
I'm glad you're saying that because again, this is showing you might have to start here because this is what you could afford, but you keep your eye on, if I could do good, better, best, let me do good. Then I could do better. And then I could, look forward to the best. And the best is something you chase after because technologies change, processes change, the opportunity for what packaging or what proposition you could provide, that evolves. and you're able to do
Absolutely.
that. So thinking about good, better, best is how I like to approach it when I'm working on a brand. You have a certain amount of dollars, you have a certain MOQ, minimum order quantities. So
Yeah.
thinking about good, better, best can usually help you find, what can I do right now that my consumer target, my demographic, cares about and would love.
Yes. And it was something that, even though if we were in plastic, which I didn't like in the beginning, I always said to myself, and I hope that the Boss fam hears this as well, that you have to don't worry too much about where you're starting. Just keep working out the best way to bring your product and your brand together. And I mean, the best, and always work towards better, like you were saying. But don't, when you're starting a product, you want to test a product. If you can't afford like a branding team, it's okay with simple labeling. Make sure the product is good and the problem that you're solving. That's, to me, that's very, very important. I hope that your listeners will take one of the things that they can take from this interview is, it's okay to start small. Not all of us have, big budgets where you can launch something huge and fast. Some of us have to start small. And so that's what I did with the plastic. And it will hurt your margins in the beginning, but as you progress, as you grow, it gets better. So see it as an investment. You may not make money off your product now.
Yes.
But you are growing your brand. You are growing your business. You are scaling and expanding. So see it as an investment.
Yeah,
that's for sure. And that's what we did.
That's a great call out. And I think people could even do this exercise, which is saying, okay, when I scale and I have X amount of units that I am driving through sales, this is then what my cost per unit is. And you get to see what that looks like, how those margins improve. It doesn't have to be something you guess. It could be something you're like, now this is what it looks like, and project out, when I have these types, when I'm able to deliver on this many units, this is what I can get. Okay, that's better. If you could see that and you're able to gradually drive to those amounts of units, you have a path to profitability.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's about in business. It's about having a path to profitability. Some of the biggest businesses are not profitable. Businesses like Amazon took a long time to be profitable. They had to keep investing, and they were really just chasing the vision of, we're going to get here and this is going to help us be profitable, and really creating the structure, the infrastructure. And again, we're not Amazon, so we may not have the dollar to keep putting in there, but you can say, what's most important? Product. This is what you did. You said, let me ensure I have a great product. Let me master that. I won't worry about all the packaging right now. Let me get a great product. Because if it's tasty, doesn't matter what it's in right now. I can get people to taste it. Then you bring taste and the whole experience, right? The appeal of the product, packaging and everything. And then you gradually really bring all of the components together. And that's, if you can't do it all at once, don't do it all at once. Tackle the product itself, tackle the appeal, put it all together, create an experience.
and that's where, and as you said, focusing on the product first, and then like the branding and the experience comes. And that's where we needed help with.
Yes.
I had a vision, but I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know how to stand out like others on the shelf. And so I was scratching my head, like, trying to study other brands who had beautiful packaging. And I embarked on a program, which I pretty much endorse. I mean, I'm not endorsing it. This is not sponsored. This is not sponsored or an endorsed product. I'm just saying this because it has worked for me, and it has been the best investment of my life. And it's called Retail Ready with Allison Ball.
Yes.
I've learned Ali Ball, who I don't know where we would be without her in Retail Ready. I'm very, very serious, because there was so much I didn't know. There is so much that goes into branding.
Yes.
Your target consumer, what problem you're solving, the demographic, the psychographics, colors, the color palette that your consumer gravitate towards.
Yeah.
And it all boils down to your target consumer. What are their likes? What are their dislikes? What are they listening to? What are they watching? What do they want to learn more about? But how to stay true to your, like, what message you're bringing out, how you want to be seen in the world. So the program opened my eyes to so many things. It opened my eyes on the branding part was was the main thing for me, and learning how to create a market strategy, learning how to talk to buyers.
Yeah.
And it basically, Retail Ready is basically responsible for the brand that we have today. And how we are seen in the world. Yes, because she drops so many gems. She really goes with you, teaches you through her course about breaking down the market strategy that tailors to your target consumer. And at first, like I said, we had limited funds, but I'm telling you, it was the best investment we made in our lives. And
listen, you got to invest sometimes. The areas where you don't know, those are the ones. And I do love Ali's program because it is comprehensive, right? And as someone who lives in that world on the marketing side, her background is as a buyer. So I think it's especially helpful because what you're doing at the beginning is pitching to a buyer. So to be able to get feedback from a buyer and help you on the back end appeal to the points that a buyer is going to be thinking about, that's golden. My world is that marketing world, right? And I always am thinking in retail, I'm thinking about how do we communicate with that buyer who's thinking a lot of the same questions that a consumer would. Yes. But then also solving for the business part of the retailer. The retailer has to make money. The retailer has to have a unique proposition. That the retailer needs something different on the shelf, and they need you as a brand to communicate that. So that type of program or that type of exercise that helps you differentiate, get all the things in order is the right type of program to feel like you can offer retailers something, and that being your end goal. Sounds like you really got what you were looking for in that program.
Absolutely. And it was the best investment. And I'm telling you, and this is something I want your listeners to know as well. There's going to be a time where you have to invest in your brand and marketing. It's all very important. It may not be big dollars, but you have to make an investment with people that know best in these fields.
Yeah. I would even add formulation, right? Because like you had your recipe, but some people may need tweaks. They might need an investment in formulation support or some type of R&D. If you're creating a hair product or a cosmetic or anything like that, cosmetic scientists. So there are these investments that you have to make that are a part of you getting retail ready or putting out the best product that you can.
Absolutely.
Good note. We talked about the business formation and trademarks. I think that one, most people know that has to happen, but we got to say it again because sometimes people forget that part, and you can get in trouble later with what if the name is taken, what if, you don't want to get in problems. So legitimizing your business, very important. The UPC codes, for those that don't know, these are the barcodes that at the grocery store they scan, right? So when you have a product, you actually have to file using GS1 and have this. This is the website that all codes are made from. You want to get your unique product code, UPC, so that when it's scanned and when you bring it to retailers, they know that this is actually something they could sell, and it's already ready to be a part of the point of sale system or the POS system that it's in store. So when they scan that all your information is uploaded and they are able to actually put it on shelf because it's there.
That's right.
Liability insurance makes sense, right? Protecting the same way you have insurance for your health, for your car, your business needs insurance. And last one you mentioned was around manufacturing space. So whether you manufacture on your own or you do it with a contract manufacturer, in your case, you manufactured on your own. Is that what's not happening still today?
Still with a team of 6, but we will soon be moving into a co-packer very soon. So
good. So talk to us about that decision, actually. So, when you start being able to, if it's a product that you're able to make on your own, being able to leverage services like a commercial kitchen. We had at the very beginning, we had Miles from 8 Miles talk about doing it himself. We had a couple other episodes where the founder was able to find a commercial kitchen that had the capabilities they needed to make their product. You found the same, and you're scaling up your brand. First it was just you, then it was you and somebody else, and now you have whole 6 people a part of your operation to deliver to Whole Foods and your other retailers. Talk to us about that, that transition, that progression of growing your team and growing the scale of your own operation at this commercial kitchen.
Yeah, so it's at the Poughkeepsie Open Kitchen, held at the historic Poughkeepsie Underwear Factory, which is an amazing organization for members or for entrepreneurs in the food and beverage space. They really help you with how, getting your foot in and like getting started in your business. So I started with just me, and then I hired like interns, and then now I have a full team of me and 6 people who are Culinary Institute students. So, which is great, who help me like with, manufacturing, bottling, packaging. So it's the 6 of us doing it, but we're at a point where we are outgrowing. We are outgrowing our space. And so
I love that.
Yeah, very soon we'll be moving into a co-packing facility, which we are so excited about.
What are you going to do with your extra time?
For me, it's about sales.
Yeah,
I want to grow drive sales, really get our product in the faces of consumers, and get our name out there and stretch our name even farther and wider. So
that's
that
awesome.
is,
it allow you to
get
focus.
A proper CEO job.
Okay, she wants to focus on the marketing, the sales piece, and be able to relinquish the effort from manufacturing, which you'll still oversee in some capacity, or you'll know what's going on, but you're going to be putting your efforts as the face of the brand and be able to connect with more retailers to get your product in.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That makes complete sense. So speaking of Milestones, talk to us about when you were in that first store and how you've grown since. Talk to us about some of those retail milestones that you've had.
Oh, wow. So we were in 9 stores in 2019. And then in 2020, it became 35. And then 2021, it grew to 63.
What?
Yes. And we're projecting to be in, I would say we are currently in over 100 stores now, but we're projecting to hit about 200.
Oh my gosh. I'm loving the multiplication, right?
Oh, yes.
So name some of the stores for those across the country so that we know where to go get it.
Yes. So we are in Whole Foods in New York City and Brooklyn. We are in Mom's Organic Market in the Mid-Atlantic region. We're also in local stores here around New York State. But Mom's Organic Market's also in New Jersey.
That's right.
In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, yes. And in the West Coast, we are in Erewhon.
Yeah.
In Southern California, which is exciting.
Yeah.
And I announced today that we're in Target in Southern California and Arizona locations.
Congratulations. That is a big deal. Such a big deal. We know how, you've really went through the step-by-step on all that you had to do. So I know everyone understands it wasn't any little work. We all appreciate how much time and energy it takes, but it also was great that you could focus on it by being able to be full-time and get the resources you need, make the proper investments to learn, to get expert advice that allows you to have this moment where you could multiply now because you're ready.
Yes, we are ready. I mean, we are getting so much in inquiries, so much interest in other stores. So it's time to take it to the next level.
I'm here for it. Something I wanted to touch on with you and just get your take on is, one of the movements we're seeing is this diversification of food within the US, right? I think never before have we ever been able to see so much diversification when it comes to that. You're seeing a lot more Hispanic, and now you're seeing way more West African. So I could think, I know Berry Bissap, Essie Spice, Yolele Foods. I'm thinking about these other brands that are catering to the region, and Gin Bros. You know, I'm thinking about these other retailers that are getting the space, the African diaspora and the flavors of the African diaspora. It's front and center now, right? We're seeing so much more of it, so much more appreciation. Where do you see this going? Now you're part of that growth, right? You're creating this category that didn't exist. We're appealing to the senses from and the flavors from that region and bringing it to the globe. Where do you see this going for the region?
I see it going to new heights. Honestly, I honestly do see it going to new heights, and it's just the beginning, and we have a long way to go. But I think each brand, I mean, Yolele is doing amazing things. You know, I mean, no one knew what Fonio is, and then now it's you know, so many, it's in so many doors now. It's in Target all over the world, and I just love what Chef Pierre Tam has done, and just and Essie Bartels, who is bringing delicious, fragrant West African spices and sauces, and you know, to the consumer, and how they can diversify in many ways in cooking. And also Yemisi Osan, who's also making the soups for Egunsi's foods.
Egunsi, yes, I cannot forget them.
Yes,
I cannot.
Doing amazing, absolutely amazing. Showing that you can use our flavors can be used for everyday cooking. Of course, for our cuisine, I mean, of course, Bissap, you know, traditionally it's enjoyed with like jollof, or, you know, like Senegalese mafe stew, or, you know, or like with fufu and any type of, you know, West African soup. But you can enjoy it, you know, with your favorite pasta dish. You can make a cocktail out of it. So it's showing the consumer, you know, where our food is from our continent, and how it can be used for everyday life, for other things that you love and enjoy, and celebrating our culture with our brands and our products. I'm so glad that it's fine, you know, West African food, beverages, ingredients, and such is getting the recognition it deserves. It's been a long time coming. But I see it going. The best is yet to come, honestly. I would say, because there are so, and if you don't mind me saying this, there are so many West African products and founders behind them who are doing amazing things, making amazing products, like Abena Foley, who makes seasonings called poke spices. It is fantastic. I use it for my cooking all the time. She has a cayenne base and jalapeno base. Delicious. Gloria Shitoff, which is a traditional Ghanaian like sauce, or type of condiment, kind of like a chili oil that we enjoy with our rice and, you know, our other foods.
You know what? I'm gonna work with you. I'm gonna
Yes.
I think
they are doing big things.
They're in Target now too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I need to work with you on putting together like a list of all of these and sharing it with the Boss Fam, because this is a great time to highlight that. You know, we're recording at a time where we're about to step into Black History Month, and I definitely want to showcase the part. By the time the listeners hear, this will not be specifically Black History Month. However, it's always Black History Month, right?
Always.
It's always a good time to hear about Black history. So we will show all of the African diaspora brands that are on the map, available in retail and available for you all to try. We're going to highlight those on behalf of Berry Bissap, because she knows them. I know most of them, but I'm going to work with you to make sure we capture as many of them as we can.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I'm glad you shouted them out, because we can make sure they are heard and seen. This audience would love to try them as well.
Absolutely.
So we talked about the next frontier for the category. What's the next frontier for you? We've been hearing all about your growth. We're seeing you're projecting to be, you know, more hundreds of stores and make your product more available. Tell us more.
So, you know, like I said, we're outgrowing the space that we are in now. So we're currently looking for a co-packing facility to manufacture in far more than what we can do our own. And, you know, there's so many other great retailers that want us on their shelves. And so we're working with it. We're working on how to get on their shelves. We're really working on a direct to consumer strategy, getting on Amazon, also through our website. But all that comes with funds. You got to fund this growth. So we're going to be raising our seed round. We're going to start raising capital.
Up to now, this has been bootstrapped, I'm guessing.
We've been bootstrapping since January of 2019. I can humbly say, and I'm not the type to brag, but we can humbly say that to be bootstrapped in a very difficult CPG category, which is beverage, and get into these doors, I'm very proud of myself. I really do have to say that. And sometimes we are shy to say, we don't want to sound too boastful, but, be proud and pat yourself on the back for, how far you've come.
I'm taking back the master's, honorary master's. I'm going to give you a PhD. I'm giving you a PhD on behalf of Black on Shelf University. For whatever it's worth. Okay.
Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. Oh man, I'll take it. Yes. But yeah, we can expect
a ton of growth. And you can be, this beverage category is not easy, and being in glass. Woo. So, it's great that you were able to get this far. And now you also recognize that the next stage will require that support, will require that fundraising. Talk to me about the decision around, how long to be bootstrapped versus now I know this is the time that I'm going to need that. What goes through your mind when you sort of weigh, when you think back, could I have done it earlier? Am I late to the gate? Is this the right time? There's no right answer, but I'm just curious how you've been thinking about it.
Right now I've been thinking we should have done this sooner. Honestly, I don't know how we were able to do it, but it's very difficult to bootstrap. It's very, very difficult because in CPG, unless you have a strong direct-to-consumer channel, it's very hard to have a hold of your cash flow and to maintain your cash flow when you're bootstrapping. And it takes funds to, nurture the accounts that you're in, like the stores. You got to support it. And it takes money to do that.
Visibility,
end caps, all those things. So, part of me is like, oh my God, we should have raised sooner. But, we're learning as we go. We're learning as we go. And we are now at a point where we are confident that we are ready to raise capital for this is going to be our very first, pre-seed or even seed round, or one of them. But we're very confident that we will be able to raise and close our seed round this year, because we are showing pretty good traction, and it's time for us to take it to the next level, because we are this close to take it to the next level. So, fingers crossed that we can get investors who believe in us and get on board with us. So
absolutely. Does it scare you at all? Or do you feel like, now I did it this way, I know it's the next time, I'm sure you're going to approach it like you've done everything else, with research, with experts. Talk to me about like how you're thinking about being as prepared as you feel you can for this type of experience that is new to you, new to the company.
I'm not going to lie, I'm nervous. I'm nervous.
I mean, it's a nerve-wracking situation.
Yeah, it is. It's a whole new world, a world I don't know, because you have to know the terms, you have to know the amount you're raising, you have to know your valuation, you have to know all these things, and educating yourself on how, properly how to present yourself to investors, where you are, where you're going to go. And it takes a lot of education, but I am confident, that we will be able to have some on board. Just going to pitch, going to tell my story, and share with them where we want to go. So that's basically it.
Making your rounds to talk to everybody.
Yeah. I mean, we are there, and we usually, I would say now, on all the accounts that we are in, especially the major ones like Erewhon and Whole Foods and Mom's Organic Market, and even now Target, I don't think anybody else, other beverage brand on the shelf is bootstrapped. Many of them are angel or venture
Very
backed.
few, yeah. And so that's kind of part of what it takes, right? Like you either already own all of that, like you already have all of that money there to do all those things, or you have to get the support. And again, it's a decision. Do you want to own all of a smaller pie or a part of a bigger pie? So ultimately you get more. Have you thought, has any of your decisions about starting now or not starting sooner been more about ownership versus growth? Have you ever had a phase where you were sort of more leaning towards, I want this to be mine versus like, I want this to grow?
Not really. I always knew, I always had an exit strategy. I always knew we would like to exit sooner or later in the business. My hope is to, if we could still, it would be great to still retain majority, because it is important that Berry Bissap is a Black owned company. And a Black woman is, like me, is running it and scaling it and growing it and taking it to the masses. So that's very important to me. But growth is the most important thing, especially in the industry that we are in. Without growth, you don't really have a business. So
something Richelieu Dennis said before is grow to scale, right? Whatever that scale looks like. It might be exit, it might be ownership, it might be, whatever it is. If you're going to grow, think about growing to scale, because you'll make the decisions, you'll make a lot of the best decisions when you think not only about exit, but also about just like, there is a way to scale. And as you get closer to it, sometimes it looks different than you originally think. So he talked, this was like in a learning session he did, and he talked to everyone about reframing our thinking to think growth for scale, and then being open to what does scaling ultimately look like. You seem like you're already there. You're like, you could exit as a sale. You want to have the ownership. You would like majority ownership. You want to still run this thing. You want to keep it moving for a certain period of time. Yeah. That's literally what he said. Grow to scale.
And there are other entrepreneurs that they want to run business, they run their business or whatever they have and pass it down to their families. But for me, it's important that, of course, we build some that we love, but in the long run, we want to create generational wealth for our families. Generational wealth is very important, especially as Black people, as brown people. It's important to create that for our families. So it's not just about money, it's about freedom. It's about freedom to create things and freely, and to be the best who we are. And it takes wealth to do that and pass it down to our children, to our children's children. If that to you is, and it depends, if that to you is a business, then hey, I'll go for it. But for me, of course, in the business that I am, it's all about scale and then exit. But I don't want my son to ever worry about, how am I going to fund my dream business or a fantastic idea? How are we going to fund this? And that's just something that many of us don't have. Most of us don't have. We don't have that generation. A lot of us come from working class families, immigrant families, and it's up to us to change that for our future and for our generations to come.
I agree.
So it's so important to me, that, not just to, some people say, well, it's important for me to provide for my son. Of course, that should be the minimum. What's important, that's the minimum, that's the standard. What's important is, I don't know who my son will be in 30 years. If he has the next big idea in the world, I don't want finances to hinder him. Right.
That's something you could give to him from your experience. It's like, how can I equip him? He may not even want to run the business. So planning for him to be like, I'm going to pass this down to my son. And just like, what if he doesn't want to do it?
Exactly. Right.
So
and
the focus is, how can I equip him and be prepared, whatever idea he has that's meaningful and that you're going to invest in, that you have something to be able to give him.
And give back.
Give
back. That is the ultimate. What can I do for my community, for my people, for young Black and brown girls if they can see that I can do it.
Yes.
I mean, people like me, we look up to we're looking up to Beatrice Dixon. We're looking up to Denise Woodard, who are killing it right now, who are just
and partake.
Exactly.
We're looking up to Akua Nettey. Okay, don't leave yourself out. You have the doctor, because we gave you a PhD. Dr. Akua Nettey. Okay. We're looking up to her.
Oh, that means a lot. That means a lot.
We're looking up to you. You're in that number.
But I want every Black and brown girl to believe. It doesn't matter where you come from. If you have an idea that will that will be a good product, no matter whatever product it is or a service that will be good to the people and that is delicious or that will solve a problem or whatever. You go for it. You may not have the money now, but as you grow and you scale, you'll figure it out and you'll get to where you want to be. But it takes crazy faith, right? To be an entrepreneur. It takes
we got the book faith over there. We love Transformation Church. It's about crazy faith. Yes.
It's really about crazy. You have to have crazy faith to be in this business, to be an entrepreneur in general, because there's going to be people who don't believe in what you're doing. You're going to hear some no's, but it's about persevering and having faith that I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm doing is going to bring good to the world and to whatever community you're serving. And that will grow and scale and be a success.
Yeah.
But you can't launch something where it's like, oh, maybe it'll work, maybe it will not work. You will not survive because there's going to be times you're going to go through hard times. Transitions are hard. Growth is very hard. There's going to be times where you feel like you won't make it till the next month. It will come.
Yeah.
I mean, you can ask anybody, whether you have a huge financial backing or not. Trials are going to come. Challenges will come. Oh yeah, that is for certain. So it's about persevering and pushing through that. And I'm doing much better at it, but at first I was an emotional wreck because one day I'm like,
to be honest, right.
One day I'm like, oh my God, this is exciting. The next day I'm like, how am I going to do this? How is this going to succeed? How am I going to see another day? But it always does when you persevere,
That's right.
It always does. And I'm a firm believer, I mean, I pray all the time, I pray that I always pray for strength. I always pray for wisdom. I always pray for, to be equipped for what's ahead. And, that's what keeps me going.
Yeah. You are resilient. This is no small feat, but you're doing it. So the prayer is working, the vision is working, your strength is there, you're holding up quite nice. And we're so happy and supportive of you. So you talked to us about your milestones, your story, the next frontier. You gave us loads of advice, and so we're so grateful how generous you have been with the resources you've used, where to point us in the right direction. And that exactly is the value Black on Shelf wants to provide. We want to get up close and personal with people like you who are actively doing it right now so that we can say, what should we know if we were to start? These are things that you could look back on and say, this is what I did. This is what was valuable. This is what I did too soon, too late from your experience. And that does help someone else think about their experience and say, all right, I have a framework to think about this, or this is what worked for her. Oh, that might work for me too, or maybe it won't because she mentioned these other differences. That's exactly what we want to do. We want to inspire thinking that helps you problem solve, that helps you make that next step, make that next move. And you helped us with that today. So if there's anything you want to close with from a lessons or advice standpoint, you've certainly gave us a great message on persevering, and I felt it. I know the community will benefit from that too. Is there anything else around that you want to leave with us?
Do your research.
She has a PhD, so I would listen to Akua about that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Do your research on what you want to launch, what you want to pursue, and the type of business you want to be in. Kind of study the business a bit, but you don't have to know everything. And faith and belief and grit,
Yeah. Okay.
and you'll thrive.
I love it.
You'll rise and thrive.
You'll rise and thrive.
That's right.
So now I want to talk to you about what does it mean for you to be Black on shelf? And we got some glimpses, generational wealth, freedom, but just want to hear from you as an overall, what does it mean for you to be Black on shelf? How important is that? How significant is that?
It means everything to me. It means everything to me because I can sit there and say, wow, I was able to start this with nothing in a category that was almost non-existent at the time and be part of a growing category that will stand the test of time and that contributes to my roots, to my country, my people. It means a lot to me. And I said this before, and I'm going to say it again. What matters to me most is that a little Black girl or a little brown girl that comes from an immigrant family can say, wow, if she can do it, I can do it too. That's the most
representation. Yeah.
Representation is everything. And we need more and more and more of it. We need more success stories.
Absolutely agree. And so Dr. Nettey has given us Boston University Beverage Edition. Tons of personal experience. I mean, I feel like I'm done with my job at this point. Like episode of the year, you got all the resources. I'm so happy you were generous with that. So thank you again. In return, where can we follow all the great work that you're doing with Berry Bissap?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram or find Berry Bissap on Instagram at Berry Bissap on all social platforms, and www.berrybissap.com. You can purchase a 12-pack and that are ready to ship to you. And like I said, we are in stores. Yep. So if you're in New York City, you can find us in Whole Foods and other surrounding. We have a stock list on our website.
Check out the store locator and support the one nearest you.
Yeah. So on Instagram at Berry Bissap, and my personal is at Akua Nettey, Akua Nettey. So if you want to hit me up on Instagram, you can slide in my DMs if you want. I love talking to
Buy
other
a product,
founders.
review it, then hit her up. How about that? In that order.
Yes.
In that order.
That's exactly it. But I love talking to other founders and other entrepreneurs. So
let's get this community continuing to flow and pop through. So thank you so much again for coming and for being so generous. We love you. We love Berry Bissap, and
love y'all
wishing you the very best. We're going to be a part of that success. We're going to support you where you are, and definitely looking forward to some that Target presence to keep crawling across the US map from California down to the South, so that all of our community can take part. But right now you can get it direct to consumer and these other locations she mentioned. So do that and review it, follow her, slide in the DMs, tell her it was awesome, give her the next idea for the flavor that you think would be great, all the things.
All the things, bring it on.
Yes, thank you.
It was such an honor. Thank you so much. It was such an honor to be on.